think just taking that time to get to know your own body and your own experience so that you can learn over time to make good and kind choices to yourself. Hopefully a little bit better each tour as you go along.
Tim, good seeing you in person, finally.
Absolutely.
On a beautiful day in Toronto.
It is.
A beautiful day.
It's perfect.
7 bands on the road. I mean, the title of this tour has not, I'm sure it is a good title for this tour. How many times have you already said, never again am I going to go on the road with 7 bands? Like, that must be pretty hectic.
Yeah, you know what? It's been better than I thought it would be in regards to the chaos element of it. It's definitely a bit of chaos and carnage on stage with the types of bands that we've got, and the different types of music and extreme metal that we've got playing on this tour. But when the tour started, we had like 15 minutes to change between bands, which is not a lot of time when you have to set up things from scratch. And there've been some shows where there's no room to put our drum kit in advance, so you've got 15 minutes to set up everything from scratch. But the people running the tour have done a fantastic job. We get just before I've met with you now. We get like half an hour on stage in the afternoon to plug a few things in the background and check some things are working. So then when we have our little 15 minutes to get everything set up, it's all been going pretty smoothly. After a few shows, so. It's been great. It's been really well run. All the bands have been, really professional, and everyone's been really cool to hang out with. So it's been a fun adventure. We weren't really sure exactly what it would be like being so many bands, but also, we haven't toured with a band like Dying Fetus before, bands of that genre. Whereas we have toured with bands like Cradle of Filth before we knew that their fans would enjoy what we do, or at least some of them. Right. We felt confident, say, with a band like Fleshgod Apocalypse, who we've been friends with for quite some time. And
that's a great fit. That's a great fit, absolutely. Now, people that follow your band and follow you personally also know that for you, there's more than quote-unquote just being on stage playing music. You have to deal with a lot of stuff behind the scenes as well. I know that you try to find some time as well to catch up on basketball and all that kind of good stuff, but something that you've spoken about, to me as well, but more broadly about, is taking care of your own mental, well-being, let's say. Mental health has been an important part of what you've talked about in the past. What, as now a more seasoned artist, on tours like this that are so hectic and insane, what are the different things that you have to do to make sure that you maximize taking care of yourself?
Well, it is definitely a case of trial and error on the road when it comes to self-care and mental health and looking after yourself, and also those around you, the people that are part of your tour party, and trying to be a good influence on the culture of the way the tour is in regards to how it connects to you and those around you. For me, on this particular tour, it's been a little bit of a challenge. About 4 or 5 days into the tour, I got a bit sick, just with a bit of a cold. Had a pretty bad cough, and that was maybe about New Mexico time, and I still got it. I'm almost I still got the cough. And so for about a week there, I was kind of struggling to kick it, and and to me, that's been an interesting signal of just showing that my body's a bit worn out.
You're pushing it,
And I've just been stuck at that 80-85% mode where I've been able to sing well, been able to perform well, but I've really had to monitor how I'm spending the rest of my time. I actually have a basketball with me in the bus, but I haven't really been able to go out and do a lot of exercise, that sort of thing. So it's like understanding the limits and constraints of your own body. So for me, getting up, going out for a walk in this beautiful Toronto sunshine is something that's really going to help me feel better. But going for a run or going to play basketball when I know I'm not quite 100% with still trying to kick this cough, might actually backfire and make me worse tomorrow. And the only reason sometimes I learn that is from making the mistake of pushing too hard. I'm a very, very motivated person. I'm very driven. And the downside of that is that there's that tendency from me in the past
Right.
And I have to be mindful of it still now to make sure I don't push beyond what my body is capable of.
Yeah.
So taking time out for myself, taking time to make sure I'm doing little things, like even if it's just a short meditation on my bunk in the bandwagon, or taking time to read a little bit backstage, something where I'm kind of taking time away from all the hectic nature of the tour. But that's difficult as well sometimes, even to do those things, because, you know, I manage the band, you know, I run the entire business of what we do. And so, you know, we're selling merch, you know, we're trying to predict, or, you know, I'm trying to predict where we're going to be at with merch sales a week from now, in case we need to order more CDs or vinyl or get t-shirts printed.
Where do you ship it to, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and some of that stuff's really time sensitive. You have a show that is bigger than expected, or 2 or 3 in a row, and all of a sudden it changes when you needed that new order by. And I've got to make sure I'm across those numbers so you don't miss something, and you don't miss the chance to make sure you're fully stocked. Otherwise, you can lose a lot of money just by not being organized enough. So just the challenge of doing that in amongst, you know, being on stage every night and having those commitments to the show, which is the #1 priority. And then just balancing it around there. So it's definitely a few challenges come with that, but it's, I think, just taking that time to get to know your own body and your own experience so that you can learn over time to make good and kind choices to yourself. Hopefully a little bit better each tour as you go along.
One thing that you've also been very, I'm almost like surprisingly open about for an artist, is you kind of share a lot about your own journey in musical mastery, let's say. Like, you often talk about, like, hey, I'm learning this. I can now play this on a violin that I couldn't play 10 years ago, where that's not always a given for artists, especially bands that are labeled somewhere in the long description prog, where it's like, there's this expectation that, no, we're the best of all things, we can do everything, and, you know, we don't have to learn anymore. In your ongoing journey, what elements are you mastering now that, you know, every album we see some new adventurous elements in your sound, but any new things that we should expect for the next album, which, if we go back to a pre-COVID, you know, almost like you could set your clock to a new Neo album, right? Every 3 years there was one. That time is coming up. So for album 5, what can we expect to see more of?
Okay, my honest answer is I don't know. But as far as the specifics, but within that, like, the better answer, or more helpful answer, is that with every album and every time we go to revisit like a lengthy period of songwriting, what I'm looking to do as an artist to continue to explore and experiment. And so what I don't know is what will come of those experiments, but what I do know is that I will be exploring and experimenting and pushing different things. So sometimes it's in regards to specific techniques in regards to the violin or my vocals. It might be something that, you know, I might have experimented with in writing on the last record, but maybe I couldn't quite pull it off. And so then you practice for a while, and then you go, hey, you know what, maybe I'm good enough to do that now. And it's interesting, you kind of bring up that notion of, as a quote-unquote prog artist, you know, some people, you know, put themselves up there as, you know, some of the best. And part of that is because, you know, some artists really are just that good. But, you know, I always just try to take a growth mindset and approach things with a mindset of trying to ensure that we're getting better. And one of the best things about being part of Obliviscaris is that the other guys that I have the privilege of playing with in this band, you know, are just such talented musicians, and they have put a lot of work in over a lot of years to be able to play the things that they do. And that gives us a freedom when writing that means that when we have an idea, chances are that whatever instrument the idea is for, the member is going to be good enough at their instrument to play it. So that gives us an artistic freedom, which I really love. And that's the main drive for me as a violinist, as a singer. I want to be able to have this kind of really strong connection between the ideas I have in my head creatively and how they come out. You know, for my violin playing, you know, on Exul, I guess there was a bit of an exploration of more broader string sections, you know, more kind of lush arrangements as opposed to just the solo string playing.
Right.
There's little bits of that on other records, but I definitely pushed that a lot further. I guess one thing I can be a bit specific of was that there's a couple of little viola parts on Exul, and I really loved writing for the viola. I played a little bit of viola for many years, but it hadn't actually been on a record.
Okay.
There's a bit in Graal, maybe about 4 minutes into the song, where there's kind of a dueling violin viola part at the same time. And actually the viola, I play the violin part live, and the viola on the backing track, but it's actually the viola that is the best part of those two.
Okay.
So I've toyed around with the idea that maybe I should get a 5-string electric violin, which has the low C string, which gives me the viola range. Because, you know, I've already written, like, one thing that I've written that may be included on the next record, you know, depending how it all pans out, actually has, you know, 2 different viola solo parts, like in a duet. And so, you know, that's something that I'm keen to explore a bit more as well, bring some of that viola element into our music, because it just has such a different timbre, like the color that it evokes for the music is quite different. And so, yeah, but having said that, who knows what actually makes it on the record, but those are the ideas that are in my head at the moment.
So to wrap us up, apart from having more viola parts and played live in the future, you've wrapped up over 10 years now of this band, and quite the journey, and you've seen people come and go, obviously. Some very significant people that have changed over the times. If we look ahead, if we were to talk in 10 years from now and look back on the second 10 years of the band, what's today on your wish list to get to? Do you have a wish list? Is it important to you?
Yeah, so Neo, we started in 2003, so it's over 21 years now, but you can split that in kind of half, because the first 10 years we didn't even have a record out. It took us like 9 years before we got to Portal of Eye. So that we were very much a local band learning. And then the last decade has been very much, you know, since 2014-15, when we kind of launched more into the international market, trying to prove ourselves that we could kind of, I guess, you know, match it with the big boys, so to speak, to be able to play on festivals, play on tours, and hold our own and fit in and be good enough to do those things and feel like we belong. So I guess that's been a lot of the last 10 years. I guess moving forward, you know, we're still in a position where, you know, not everyone in the band does this full time. Yeah, so I guess having that financial flexibility so that we can continue to invest in the band long term is, I guess, ideally what we're hoping for. You know, it's one of those things where, you know, sometimes you hear people say like, oh, you know, music should just be done for the love or as a hobby or something. But
there's the reality.
The reality is, you know, I have a 13-year-old daughter back home, and I've, you know, bills to pay. And if I'm away for a number of months a year, that needs to be able to contribute to that. And thankfully, you know, it does, but it's still at that level that, you know, it's still something that is stressful at times. In regards to how much we can do and how much you can push. And so, you know, I guess that's the real, you know, dream, I guess, you know, when you think that, you know, we're already doing all these fantastic tours, you know, we're headlining and playing festivals and these things that we love to do. And so it's just be able to then do that with without some of the financial pressures that come along with that. But thankfully, you know, it's been going really well, and Exul was a huge record for us. And things really improved a lot for us in every facet of the band, with how many people were turning up and how many people were buying merch, and the financial situation for our band. And it's one of those funny things where we've always been quite open talking about these things ever since we launched our Patreon back in March 2016, back when we were the first band in the world to do that.
Before COVID pushed everybody there.
And you know, I think that being honest with your audience about the realities of what it's like to be in a band is helpful, because then the fans can know what ways they can support the bands they love and help make sure they keep making music.
Awesome. Tim, you've got a very hectic night ahead of you. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. But please go take that little bit of rest, or maybe some of that management stuff you have to take care of, so you don't have to spend all night doing that. It's so good to see you. Can't wait for the show. Come back again soon, please.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.